Welcome to the Isam Faris Center for Lebanon. It is our pleasure at the center to host you here today and to have you have a nice discussion with Dr. Fry on Iran and what he's going to say about it. But I leave the introduction to my good friend, Dr. Habib Fram, with whom the Syriac, because we in the Syriac League are sponsoring together jointly this event.
During this tense time in the history of Lebanon, it gives me great pleasure to be speaking here at the Isam Faris Center in the heart of Beirut. My heartfelt wishes of success to my good friend Dr. Abdullah Abu Habib, our former ambassador to Washington, and the ambassador of sensibility among the Maronites and Lebanese. As well as to Dr. Raghid al-Salah, the face of Arab openness. It gives me great joy to present, in the name of this center and the Syriac League, Professor Richard Fry, a Harvard University American researcher and academic who has spent his life, and may be a long one, researching a part of the world laden with religions, ethnicities, traditions, and yes, sometimes violence. He will talk to us about Iran, after having visited this country recently, last week, where he was presented a cultural prize by the Iranian President Ahmadinejad. At a time when the noise on the streets of Beirut gets louder and louder, we can only hope that this lecture will help shed the light from a different scope on Iran, not the bigger devil or the member of the axis of evil, but rather as the nation of multiple dimensions. My affection for Dr. Richard springs from my nostalgia to all what is linked to our people. And I feel it is noteworthy to mention that he is the spouse of one of the most prominent activists in the Assyrian Syriac world, Dr. Eden Nabi, a good friend and a comrade, in a long struggle across the world's capitals, trying to confirm that Eastern Christianity will not die. I welcome each member of this audience today and wish the Fry family, with Nils, another scholar who's living now in China, a good stay among us in Lebanon. Thank you very much.
Well, greetings. I would like, first of all, to thank the Isam Faris Institute, and especially His Excellency Ambassador Abdullah Abu Habib. And I tell you, as a recent guest in a hospitable, very chilly Iran, including Shiraz and Isfahan, I'm happy to be in a warmer climate, although not all that warmer. This time as a guest of the Syriac League and our friend Mr. Habib Fram. But first I would like to present my memoirs, which is called Greater Iran, Irani Khabir, Yani Irani Buzurg, to the, if I may, to the Isam Faris Institute.
Thank you.
Please. Mm-hmm. Now, I spent my whole life working on the Iranian cultural world. By this, I don't mean the Iran of today, but the very great expanse of culture, Iranian culture, into Afghanistan, into Tajikistan, even into Uzbekistan. There's something about that that's very important. And after 70 years of living and working and traveling in Iran, I've had many opportunities to observe change and see the direction of movement. So I come from Iran now that is aiming for two contrasting goals. One, consolidation of the gains of the 1979 revolution, and second, becoming part of the 21st century. And it's a question whether they can mesh together and really not in conflict. But I'm an historian, and I want to start from the very beginning of history, because you say, oh, that has no relevance. I think it has, and then if you listen to me, I think maybe you will agree with me. You know, many people regard the coming of the Iranians into this part of the world and the formation of the Achaemenid Empire. Cyrus, you know, he took the hands of Marduk in Babylon to show his tolerance for the Babylonian religion. He freed the Jews and sent them back to Jerusalem. He had this great cuneiform tablet on the rights of man. But one thing I think people have forgotten about, and that is, it's the first time in history that a secular code of laws was established by the Iranians.
Before, not Hammurabi?
No. That wasn't, I said secular. That was religious inclined. If you look at it, you will see that it is, Hammurabi is concerned with the Babylonian religion and everybody else concerned with that religion. But, as you know, the Semitic languages, including Arabic, have one word, deen, which is not only religion, but it also, as you know, it means the government and everything. Deen is the one thing. For the first time in history, the Iranians created what was called Dad, Data de Malka, the law of the kings, the Dagestan of the kings, that spread all over the empire. And this is extremely important because if you look in the book of Ezra, for example, you'll find a beautiful example of this. He tells the Achaemenid governor tells Ezra, now you codify the laws, the religious laws of the Hebrew people, but above that, above the laws of the Egyptians, above the laws of the Hebrews, above the laws of the Babylonians, there is a secular law, it was not religious law, and this is very important. And I believe, it's hard to prove it, that this is a copy of the famous Roman law, is a copy of this law, because that was the first time in history that this has been made. Now this goes on, you say, what does that mean? I'll tell you what it means. Throughout Iranian history, there have always been this conception of din v'dad, separation of church and state. It goes back to, my God, goes back to the Sasanian, the Akhti Arashir, the Pandame Nushirvan, the Kabusnama, the Siyasatnama of Nizam, and even in Arabic, Al-Ghazali, Nasihat al-Muluk. He stresses the need of separation between the two. And this is very important because it is the culture which continues and continues today and still is here with us. Now, there were three periods of strong Arab influence in Iran. First of all, the early acceptance of Islam. And you know what this means. It was a caliph. The caliph combined in him both religious and secular and state functions. That is the Arab way of doing things. Well, you know, after a while, the caliphs became a little bit Iranized, and it changed this. But I will come to that later. The second period of influence, on Iran was the formation of the Shiite state of the Safavids. Now, Shah Ismail Safavi was the equivalent of Khomeini today. He was almost the shadow of God upon earth. And he had combined in him both the religious and the secular thing. And even from Lebanon here, great numbers of Shiites went over to Ardabil. Great numbers from Najaf and Karbala went up there. So you had the beginning of a very Arabic influence on Iran. This is the second period of influence. But it changed. It changed because Shah Abbas and Tahmasp, the other ones, they separated again. They separated what we call Din and Dad. They separated religion and the secular society. So this went on. So Shah Abbas and others, and then it went on. Now, the third influence, of course, is the Iranian Revolution of today, when again, the Semitic, I call it Semitic because it's Arabic, but it's also Semitic, conception of the union of church and state into one person took over again in Iran. And that's what we have today. And you know, what you had, I don't know whether you know, was within Iran at that time, at any time, but you had Arabic on the radio, Arabic on television, Arabic in the classes everywhere. And well, I won't go into it. A couple of students on the radio were reciting the Quran, and one of them who recited best after a couple of hours got a prize for it. So, you know, the thing is that there was an attempt also for a short time of saying that Iranian customs are غير-Islami, against Islam. Nonsense. No ruse and all that. It could not be, and the Iranians rise again. You could not have it because, you know, the direction is clear. There will be a resurgence of the Iranian inner sense of not only government but of culture, Iranian culture. What is it goes on for way prehistoric right on down to the present time. This is very important to remember, I think. This very important place, because culture, the supreme importance of Iranian culture throughout history, that is the glory of Iran, believe me. And, you know, we have it going back to the ancient book of the Avesta, and it goes on into Firdausi Shahnameh. This is the Iranian tradition. Now, you say, well, it's not quite the same as the tradition of the Achaemenid kings. Al-Biruni in his Athar al-Baqiya, what he did was to say, yes, I know all the Achaemenid kings, starting with Cyrus, Cambyses, Darius, Artaxerxes, etc. He had them all, but he didn't quite understand. Something's funny. He called them Chaldeans. And the Iranian history, the Iranian view of the race is the Avestan view of history, the Pishdadian, the Kayanian dynasty. So this is the thing that is, I think people sometimes forget, that the supreme importance of Iranian culture throughout history, that it goes on and on. Now, you know, there are a lot of things that are going on. For instance, right at the present day, we have a diaspora of Iranians. They're in Paris, London, my God knows where, in Los Angeles, many of them, and up to almost 4 million diaspora. But the thing that keeps them is the strength of Iranian culture. It sustains them, and it keeps them from assimilating into becoming Americans or becoming English, French or something else. This is really important, and it shows you what this powerful effect of culture in Iran. Adabindal force, and that's quite correct. Now, you know, the people in the West, they are now assimilating. They're making endowments in university, foundations for culture, and this is evidence of this. So it shows that in spite of all the efforts to remain culture, forget about politics. They are interested in what is culture. And it is true that there is this brain drain that we've had. But, you know, when the Russians and the Chinese had their brain drains too, they gave the rest of the world, including the Near East, an example of what Russian culture was, what Chinese culture was. And that is what is happening today with these people in the diaspora. And do you know how many Jews there are in Israel? There are 300,000 Jews in Israel. And you know, they can't assimilate. What?
Iranian Jews.
Iranian Jews, yes, Iranian Jews. Not, of course, well, it's Iranian Jews, no one else but them. And the Israelis are very angry because they hang on to Islamic culture, like the Jews in Los Angeles. They call it Tehran Angulus, because there they write in Arabic, write Persian, and not in Hebrew. You see the tremendous power of Iranian culture has on them. So the Iranian culture doesn't want to destroy this by a bomb or anything else. I think the diaspora is doing everything they can, and they're doing that right now, influencing the American government, trying to, for goodness sake, don't attack Iran in any way. And I think this is what is going on. Now, there are a number of things I want to talk about. And I don't know that I have time. I would prefer to have. Iran is an enormous country, and in the past it had an influence from China to Bain al-Nahrain, yani Mesopotamia, and from outer Mongolia to Majaristan. What's Majaristan? What is it? Hungary, yes. All of this was Iranian cultural area with the Scythians and Sakas and others. Many people, many languages, but the culture was supremely Iranian. So it's very important, I think, to remember this throughout the time. Now, of course, I want to talk to so many things about the demographics of Iran that over 50 or almost 60% of the population was born after the revolution. So you have a group growing up that are completely different, and in a certain way, these young people are immoral and cynical. And in many respects, the current regime never gained really a mandate from the young people despite any kind of indoctrinations. And you know, they made universities all over the country they have to take care of these people. Now these people want jobs. They want to be able to you know, to show that their education gets to some kind of employment in that. And the quality, I'll go into all this later, because I really want to about the quality of education, what kind of a youth, and they don't care about religion anymore, which I've seen. And after all, the world is now linked with, in terms of communications, and there's a very easy way that people communicate with each other now. And you know, women, they're over 50, like in many other countries, they're over 50% of the university are women in Iran. And they're beginning to show themselves. But I want to start with something. I go back to history again. And I want to say something about the relation between Iran and the Arabs. You know, originally the Christians were Jews. They were all Jews to start with. But Paul and several others went out and they discovered, or they took the Greco-Roman world, the culture of it, and made it into international Christianity. Now, Islam was originally an Arab faith. You want to become a Muslim? You had to become an Arab. You know this from the beginning, the Umayyad, and the beginning even of the Abbasids. And many times the person who wanted to become a Muslim had to become a Mawali of the Arab tribes. And many times in Mesopotamia, Hajjaj ibn Yusuf told the Assyrians who were there, he said, you cannot become Muslims. Why? Because you have not joined an Arab tribe. So Islam was bound to the Arabs, just like Zoroastrians for the Zoroastrians, the Hebrews, the Jews to the Jewish religion, the Hebrew religion, the same thing. Arab was Islam. You know what the Iranians did? In the 3rd and 4th, 5th century AD, the Iranians laid the basis of Islam, and they made Islam an international faith. Arabs sometimes forget this. I'm sorry about this. I remember an old friend, a fellow I knew in